In ancient Rome, the most popular cure for headaches involved drilling a hole in your skull while you were fully conscious. Half the patients died instantly, the other half wished they had. But compared to some ancient medical treatments, having your brain exposed to open air was actually one of the safer procedures. Today, we're exposing the terrifying truth about ancient medicine, treatments so deadly that plagues looked merciful by comparison. We think of medicine as healing, as hope, as salvation from suffering. But for thousands of years, visiting a doctor was more dangerous than the disease itself. Ancient physicians killed more patients than they cured, using treatments that would be considered torture today. From drinking liquid mercury to eating human remains, from bloodletting until unconsciousness to using crocodile dung as birth control, these weren't fringe practices. They were mainstream medicine, prescribed by the most respected physicians of their time. Before we dive into these deadly ancient treatments, make sure to subscribe and ring that notification bell. Because if you think today's medical horrors are disturbing, wait until you see next week's video on ancient beauty treatments that literally melted faces off. Now, back to the medicine that killed millions. Let's start with a treatment so common that it killed more Romans than all their wars combined. Got a fever? Drain your blood. Broken bone? Drain your blood. Depressed? Definitely drain your blood. For over 3,000 years, bloodletting was medicine's answer to literally everything. The theory seemed logical to ancient minds. Illness came from bad blood or excess humors. The solution? Remove the blood, sometimes a little, usually too much, always without understanding what blood actually did. Egyptian papyri from 1550 BCE detail precise bloodletting schedules. Greek physician Hippocrates, yes, the one doctors swear an oath to, recommended draining blood until the patient fainted. That was considered the therapeutic endpoint, but the Romans took it to deadly extremes. Roman physician Galen prescribed bloodletting for everything from acne to pneumonia. His recommended amount? Up to 4 pounds of blood. That's nearly half of all blood in the human body. Patients would go in with a minor illness and come out in shock, organs failing from blood loss. The tools were nightmare fuel, lancets that looked like torture devices, spring-loaded scarificators with multiple blades that created dozens of wounds at once, and the famous breathing bowls, cups placed over cuts to suck out blood through vacuum pressure. Medical records from ancient Rome show mortality rates that boggle the mind. During plague outbreaks, more people died in medical facilities than in their homes. Not from plague, from blood loss. Physicians would bleed plague victims to release the disease, accelerating death in already weakened patients. One account from physician Antyllus describes treating a woman's headache by opening 4 arteries simultaneously. She bled to death in minutes. His conclusion? He should have opened 5. The practice was so ingrained that even when patients begged to stop, physicians insisted on continuing. They believed the weakness from blood loss was actually the illness leaving the body. By the time they realized their mistake, the patient was dead. But if you think bleeding to death was bad, wait until you hear what ancient doctors prescribed you to swallow. Imagine a substance so beautiful that ancient civilizations called it liquid silver. So mystical that emperors drank it seeking immortality. So deadly that a single teaspoon could destroy your brain, kidneys, and nervous system. Welcome to Mercury, ancient medicine's favorite poison. Chinese Emperor Qin Shi Huang, builder of the Terracotta Army, died at 49 from drinking mercury pills prescribed by his doctors. He'd been taking them daily for years, believing they granted eternal life. The irony? Mercury was literally mummifying him from the inside while he lived. But mercury wasn't just for emperors. It was ancient medicine's Swiss Army knife. Syphilis, mercury injections directly into the urethra. Constipation, mercury enemas that dissolved intestinal walls. Depression, mercury baths that absorbed through the skin. Teething babies, mercury-laced powders rubbed on their gums. The symptoms of mercury poisoning were horrific. First came the tremors, hands shaking so violently that victims couldn't hold a cup. Then the madness. Mercury destroys brain tissue, causing hallucinations, paranoia, and violent outbursts. Finally, organs shut down one by one. Archaeological analysis of ancient Roman bones shows mercury levels 20 times higher than what would kill a modern person. These weren't isolated cases. Entire populations were slowly poisoned by their medicine. The most disturbing part? Doctors knew something was wrong. Byzantine physician Paul of Aegina wrote that mercury treatment caused trembling, paralysis, and death. His solution? Mix the mercury with honey to make it gentler. Women had it even worse. Mercury was the main ingredient in ancient skin whitening creams. Cleopatra herself used mercury-based cosmetics daily. Roman women would apply mercury directly to their faces, watching their skin peel off in sheets, which they saw as renewal. One Roman physician's beauty treatment recipe survives: mercury mixed with lead and arsenic. He prescribed it for acne. The treatment worked by killing all skin cells, healthy or otherwise. Many women died with perfect porcelain complexions because their faces had been chemically mummified. Speaking of putting poison on your face, our next treatment made mercury look safe. In ancient Egypt, women seeking to prevent pregnancy had one reliable option: crocodile dung. Fresh crocodile dung mixed with honey inserted exactly where you're thinking, and compared to other ancient contraceptives, this was actually one of the safer options. The Kahun Gynecological Papyrus from 1800 BCE provides the recipe. Crocodile dung softened with sour milk formed into a pessary. The theory: the dung's alkaline properties would kill sperm. The reality: it introduced bacteria directly into the reproductive system, causing infections that often turned fatal. But when crocodile dung wasn't available, alternatives were worse. Lead-based vaginal suppositories that caused heavy metal poisoning, mercury drinks that destroyed organs. One Greek prescription called for drinking water that blacksmiths used to cool hot metal, essentially a toxic cocktail of iron, lead, and carbon. The Romans had their own nightmare: silphium. This now extinct plant was so effective at preventing pregnancy that they harvested it to extinction. But it worked by causing violent uterine contractions that often killed the woman along with any potential pregnancy. When contraception failed, ancient abortion methods were even deadlier. Physicians would prescribe jumping from high places, having servants beat the woman's abdomen, or drinking concoctions of poisonous herbs. One surviving Roman medical text recommends crushed ants mixed with pennyroyal oil, drunk while sitting in a bath of horse urine. The pennyroyal alone was lethal. It causes liver failure. Combined with whatever diseases horse urine carried, survival rates were essentially zero. The most tragic part? These weren't desperate measures by back alley practitioners. These were prescribed by respected physicians to wealthy women. Poor women who couldn't afford medical care ironically had better survival rates. Archaeological evidence from Pompeii reveals the true horror. Analysis of female remains shows widespread pelvic infections, heavy metal poisoning, and reproductive damage consistent with these treatments. Many women died in their early 20s, not from childbirth, but from trying to prevent it. But nothing compared to the medical horror show of ancient surgery, headache, epilepsy, acting strange. Ancient doctors had one solution: cut a hole in your skull while you're awake with a rock. Trepanation, drilling into the human skull, was practiced on every continent for over 10,000 years. It's the oldest surgical procedure known to humanity, and for most of that time, it was also the deadliest. The process was nightmare incarnate. Patients were held down by multiple people, while the surgeon, often a priest or barber, used primitive tools to penetrate the skull. No anesthesia except maybe some alcohol. No understanding of infection. No concept of brain function. The tools evolved but never became less terrifying. Stone Age surgeons used sharpened rocks and obsidian, literally scraping through bone. Bronze Age improvements included hand-operated drills that looked like torture devices. Romans used a crown saw, a circular blade hammered through the skull. Why did they do it? Ancient physicians believed the head contained evil spirits causing illness. The hole let them escape. Headaches were trapped demons. Seizures were possession. Mental illness was supernatural invasion. The cure for all? Open the skull and let the evil out. Modern analysis of trepanned skulls reveals the horrific truth. Infection rates were astronomical. Bone evidence shows that even successful procedures often led to meningitis, brain abscesses, or chronic infection that killed patients months later. But here's the truly disturbing part: some people survived and came back for more. Skulls have been found with multiple trepanation holes, showing healing between procedures. These patients lived through the surgery once and still agreed to do it again. Prince Philip of Orange had trepanation in 1524 for severe headaches. The royal surgeon removed a circle of skull the size of a large coin. Philip survived the surgery but developed a brain infection. He spent his remaining years in agony, skull partially exposed, brain slowly swelling until death. Even successful cases were horrors. Patients who survived were left with permanent holes in their skulls, covered only by skin. Any blow to the head became potentially fatal. Many developed epilepsy from brain damage, the very condition trepanation was supposed to cure. The mortality rate? Conservative estimates say 50%, but that's only counting immediate deaths, include post-operative infection, and the real number was closer to 70–80%. Yet, the practice continued for millennia, killing millions in the name of medicine. Speaking of killing millions, let's talk about the most disgusting medical ingredients ever prescribed. In 17th century Europe, the hottest medical trend was drinking liquid human fat. But that was practically appetizing compared to what ancient physicians had been prescribing for thousands of years. Medicine made from human corpses. It started with the Egyptians, not making mummies, but eating them. By the Roman era, ground-up mummy was considered a cure-all. Headache? Eat powdered mummy. Broken bone? Pack the wound with mummy dust. Stomach problems? Drink mummy dissolved in wine. The practice was based on a deadly misunderstanding. Arabic physicians wrote about mumia, a natural tar-like substance with mild antiseptic properties. Europeans confused this with mummy and started consuming actual human remains. Medical texts from ancient Rome to Renaissance Europe contain recipes that read like cannibal cookbooks. Human skull ground into powder for epilepsy. Fresh blood drunk from executed criminals for vitality. Human fat rendered into ointments for joint pain. Pulverized human heart for courage. Public executions became medical harvesting grounds. Physicians would wait at scaffolds with cups to collect fresh blood. Executioners had side businesses selling body parts. One Roman medical text advises, the blood must be drunk while still warm before the vital essence escapes. The demand was so high that grave robbing became a medical supply chain. Egyptian tombs were ransacked not for gold, but for mummies to grind into medicine. When mummies ran low, unscrupulous merchants made fake ones from recent corpses, spreading disease instead of curing it. This wasn't folk medicine for the desperate. King Charles II of England paid £6,000 for a recipe of the King's Drops, human skull dissolved in alcohol. He took it daily until his death, ironically from kidney failure likely caused by the concoction. The medical logic was sympathetic magic. Consume human brain to cure head problems, drink blood for blood diseases, eat powdered bones for fractures. In reality, patients were contracting everything from prion diseases to bloodborne infections. The scale was staggering. One London pharmacy's 1747 inventory listed 2 pounds of powdered mummy, 5 bottles of human fat, 3 preserved human skins. This was standard stock, as common as aspirin today. The practice created a horrific cycle. Diseases spread through corpse medicine created more corpses, which were turned into more medicine. Entire outbreaks can be traced to contaminated human remains sold as cures. But perhaps the most disturbing aspect, it worked just often enough to keep the practice alive. Placebo effect, natural recovery, or sheer luck meant some patients improved. These successes justified centuries of medical cannibalism that killed far more than it cured. Let's put this in perspective. The Black Death killed an estimated 75–200 million people. Horrific, world-changing, apocalyptic. But over the same period, medical treatments quietly killed even more. Every bloodletting death, every mercury poisoning, every fatal infection from crocodile dung, every brain infection from trepanation, every disease spread through corpse medicine, day after day, year after year, century after century. Conservative estimates suggest that pre-modern medical practices had a mortality rate of 40–60%. In a world where life expectancy was already short, doctors cut it even shorter. The wealthy who could afford more medicine often died younger than peasants who couldn't. The tragic irony? Many patients would have recovered naturally if left alone. Their bodies could fight off infections, heal wounds, overcome illnesses, but medical intervention turned survivable conditions into death sentences. A Roman child with a simple fever, killed by bloodletting. An Egyptian woman seeking contraception, dead from infection. A Greek soldier with headaches, brain exposed by trepanation. A medieval merchant eating mummies for joint pain, contracting ancient diseases. These weren't medical mistakes, they were standard practice. The best physicians, the most advanced civilizations, the cutting-edge treatments, all dealing death in the name of healing. Next time you complain about a long wait at the doctor's office or wince at a simple injection, remember, you live in the first era of human history where visiting a physician increases your chances of survival. For thousands of years, medicine was deadlier than disease. Cures killed more than plagues. The people trusted to heal were unknowingly conducting mass murder with medical degrees. These weren't primitive barbarians, they were brilliant minds working with flawed theories. Galen, Hippocrates, Avicenna, geniuses whose ideas just happened to be fatally wrong. They believed they were helping. Patients believed they were being helped. Everyone participated in a medical system that was accidentally genocidal. The next time someone talks about ancient wisdom or traditional medicine, remember the mountains of corpses created by Mercury drinks, bloodletting, and corpse powder. Remember that for most of human history, the prescription was worse than the disease. Modern medicine isn't perfect, but at least when a doctor says this might sting a little, they don't mean this will definitely kill you, but we'll blame the disease. What other deadly ancient practices have been forgotten by history? Next week, we're exposing ancient beauty treatments that literally dissolved women's faces. Subscribe and hit the notification bell. You won't want to miss the horrifying truth about what people did for beauty before modern cosmetics. If this video made you grateful for modern medicine, hit that subscribe button and notification bell right now. Trust me, after seeing what ancient medicine was really like, they'll never complain about a simple pill again. Click here to watch why Roman baths were deadlier than their gladiator games, or here to discover the most disgusting jobs in ancient history. Remember, the past wasn't just brutal, it was medically homicidal.